Hey, hey, hey! I'm Largo. This is The Lair, and welcome to a special edition of the Infinite Playlist. Something new we're trying out. Thanks to our buddies over at Hella Dope who kind of inspired us from Aaron's appearance. We talked some tunage then. Everybody seemed to really enjoy it, so we said, yeah, we could do another show. Why not? We don't have anything else to do. I don't need to sleep. So, to help me keep all this craziness going, got my buddy Will.
Hey, how's it going, everyone?
We're getting there. Chat's already a popping. We'll jump into that in just a moment. But first, let's introduce our guest for the evening, who is
Mad Dog Chad.
Indeed. Good evening, sir.
What's up, gentlemen?
Hope we didn't put you on the spot too much, but I'm digging it, man. I've been
a little bit.
Going through a little bit of the back catalog there of some of your tunage, and I am liking what I'm hearing.
Appreciate that.
We are going to be talking about a lot of stuff tonight, but first and foremost, what's in your playlist?
All sorts. I didn't know if you were going to go into some other intro or something. I was like, what?
Nope, I'm spent. I'm just going to go through and say hello to the chat real quick. Let's see who we got here. Bjorn, hey, buddy. Schmodulajalok and all that good stuff. One of these. Zazel's here from Sergeant Slaughter's Slaughterhouse.
Hey, Zazel.
Very cool.
Salute and thumb kiss. Cutthroat Comics, hey, hey, hey. Pendragon,
Chris?
Designs
What's
and
up?
Toys.
Chad.
You can never have too many Chads. That's a good thing.
Nope, cannot.
Man, the chat is a poppin'. You guys are working my tired old eyes. Action Figs, Ed, good to see you. We'll see you soon. He'll be on our show Thursday.
Sweet.
And it is not Tron Legacy, but it definitely has that same kind of flavor. But this one's royalty free, which we like because we don't like getting yelled at by the YouTube algorithm thingy.
Daft Punk will come after you.
Oh, yeah. Keep on collecting. Nice to see you. One of our newer subscribers. Very cool. Nice to see. He's got some pretty cool stuff going on there. Just been checking out his channel.
I'll go check it out.
Yeah.
Eduardo. What?
Oh,
That
yes.
rooster's name?
That is Eduardo.
Yeah.
The next door nemesis. He will always make an appearance. James from Ratface 44 Reviews. Good to see you. Oh, good grief, guys. I'm going to just say a general howdy because I'm not keeping up with the chat. You guys are rolling on. And we want to talk to the Chad, the Chadster, the Chadmeister.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I'm loving the playlist you sent. It definitely brought some memories up, and I enjoyed kind of digging through and looking at some new stuff too. So pretty much tonight, overall, we're going to be talking about punk, rockabilly, psychobilly, gothic, horror type punk, if you want to go that far.
Sure.
A lot of different flavors and genres that it's all good stuff. And, you know, like we were talking about earlier in a previous show, Ryan had made a comment. If you look at what punk is in its roots, you can kind of go back to the Nashville Rebels. You can kind of look at guys like Johnny Cash and Waylon Jennings and the guys who kind of bucked the authority and said, we're going to make our own sound. And it was, there's an argument to be made. Being a lover of the rockabilly, do you go back to that outlaw country stuff as well? Is that, Very cool.
I listened to a lot of Johnny Burnett and the Rock and Roll Trio. So Johnny Burnett was one of those first, white musicians, and they were playing that kind of bluesy 12-bar stuff, but he was putting all the distortion and feedback, and a lot of the riffs that you would hear from a lot of the Sun Records artists were all Johnny Burnett songs. So
That's
just as Blue Suede Shoes didn't go #1 until Elvis recorded it, a lot of the stuff that Johnny Burnett wrote was made popular by the Sun artists. But I'm a huge fan of Johnny Burnett, the Rock and Roll Trio. Just very stripped down. It's dirty. The songs are short, but he is such a phenomenal guitar player that he created really good rhythms. So I really go back to that sound.
And that is definitely something the signature in all the different flavors of punk is intensity. Distortion is usually kind of an underlying current, if you will.
Yep.
I can't
Dirty.
talk tonight.
Yep.
And short songs, short sets, get in, get out, get something going, get rhythm.
Yeah. And the Ramones debut album in 1974, so just self-titled, right? Just the Ramones. The longest track on that album is 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Oh, I bet the DJs were hating that because there's not even time to go get a coffee and hit the head.
Oh, yeah. And then back in the early 90s in Huntington Beach, California, when I was out there for a little while, there was a band out there, and they were just that old school punk rock. And the band was called HFL, which meant hard, fast, and loud. And all their songs were like 2 to 3 minutes. And they were so energetic. They were so great. I don't know whatever happened to them, but they were fun.
Yeah. When I was out in Portland, I got to go to the Crystal Ballroom, which is kind of a little smaller venue. And occasionally they'd have some really cool stuff. Punk is better live. I mean, there's just something about the crowd, getting a mosh pit going, the energy. And, for the most part, people are there to have fun. They're not there to get concussions and contusions, but it happens.
And see, that's another thing that brings back around to, punk has its roots in a lot of that old 12-bar blues stuff, because a lot of those old blues musicians, they would just set one hot mic in the middle of the room, and they would just do hot takes on songs. And they would just play, and then the engineer would cut it up into separate tracks. And there wasn't we're going to overlay, 3 guitar tracks, and you're going to have 9 vocal tracks. And there wasn't any of that stuff back then. It was all just reel to reel, and they just went. And that's one of the things that I always loved about punk rock music.
Now, have you done much engineering yourself? Have you tinkered with that, or just playing?
Yeah, no. I've edited and engineered a good deal of stuff. I'm pretty savvy with the Pro Tools.
Nice.
Yeah, but not ADAT or reel to reel. I'm only good with the digital.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say old school stuff.
Which is why
man.
I like to edit videos, because the video editor I use is very Pro Tools-esque.
Okay, yeah, very similar. So. Yeah, those guys in the old days when they're literally splicing tape and putting things together, it's like that was a science, man. I don't know how they learned those things, because it wasn't like there was a manual. There wasn't like a place you could go to school for sound engineering. Most of these guys were just off the street, like, yeah, man, I can plug this thing in and I'll figure out the board. I don't know.
And I'm kind of old school like that. So the last producer and engineer that we worked with, they were just like, "Oh yeah, we'll just punch that drum track." And I was like, "What do you mean you're going to punch a drum track?"
It's like, yeah, we'll just
punch you in at this part. Just start playing along, and we'll just punch you in. I'm like, no, it doesn't feel the same.
Yeah, I've heard from other people who are drummers, and they hate drum machines. They hate the idea of the manipulated sound. It's like, if you're a struggling band and you don't have a drummer and you want to use a drum machine, it sucks, but yeah, okay, I get it. But get a freaking drummer. It's not that hard.
It got Trent Reznor pretty far. Yeah, but at the same time, if I can't do one solid take from start to finish, I'll just redo the track. I can't do punches on drums, because it's all feel and like emotion.
Yeah, because then you're not in the music. You're just kind of trying to plug and play, and it's like that's not how it works.
Yeah.
Action Figs. Most of these punk bands and rockabilly use 3 instruments. That's true. No special stuff, just music and loud.
Perfect.
That's all my band has. So we got one guitar who's the lead singer, and then an upright bass. He also does lead vocals on some songs as well. And then I only play a 5-piece drum kit.
How you gonna hate on the Reznor? How?
Listen,
I'm
all I
not
have to
hating
say
on him.
is Trent Reznor
Just stating a fact, man.
is 9 Inch Nails. I remember seeing that on the album when back in the day.
Oh, good stuff.
Oh, Trent
And
Reznor's
yes,
freaking brilliant. Yeah, he's brilliant.
yeah. And yes, even Phil Collins has been known to use a drum machine now and then.
Sure.
It happens.
Yeah.
I remember
everybody
when
air drums that Phil.
Oh yeah.
Right?
When when those electric drum things came out where it's just like you just see these disc things that are kind of hexagon shaped. I'm like, what the hell? That's not a drum. But hey man, they came out with some interesting ways to put that to use.
Yeah.
But let's talk about what you brought to the table tonight. So here is the music dossier of Mr. Articulated Chad. And as we have already hinted at, the Ramones. Great stuff.
Yeah.
Now, almost everybody's. Oh yeah, and that's one of the things that people probably have seen this by every other band because it is so copied. When these guys did this album cover, this was photographed by Punk Magazine's Roberta Bailey. It was just the guys leaning against a wall. She's like, "Yeah, that's a cool shot." Yep. The record company paid $125 for this front photo, and it has become one of the most imitated album covers of all time. Quintessential.
That's the Abbey Road cover of punk rock music right there.
Yeah.
That's totally. The Beatles, people. Yeah.
Best haircuts in the biz.
Oh man. Yeah. Just it works for them.
Everything that you look at in this image, it is in direct conflict and in direct response to the arena rock of the days. And granted, I will listen to that stuff too because I just love music. I love music. But the Ramones, they set out to make a statement, and they were like, we're not doing any of that huge flashy crap. Like, we're just doing stripped down, sped up, leather jackets, ripped skinny jeans. And look at Joey Ramone. He inspired generations.
Oh, yeah.
And so I grew up in Brooklyn, right? I went to my very first show at CBGB. I played CBGB on numerous occasions. One of the last shows I played there was just before they closed. And I remember being a teenager and going to CBGB. And right outside the door, there was one of those fire department plugs, like right in the wall. And he would just sit on it. He was always there until he died. He was always there.
It's just
he
like
was just the coolest dude in the world.
Yeah, if you were going to personify awesome. no F's to give, that was it. Totally.
Yeah, it just sucked that, like, if you know the history of the Ramones, and Johnny and Joey were really at each other, and Johnny Ramone stole Joey Ramone's girlfriend and married her. There's some crazy stories with those guys.
I bet.
And like all the trouble that Dee Dee Ramone would get into,
but they lived what they sang. I mean,
they did.
They were very, very genuine.
There's the ma'am.
Yeah,
don't let Chad fool you. He listened to ABBA with me. Yeah, I did. I love music.
It's all good.
Hi, ma'am. How are you?
Hi, beautiful.
We do not discriminate against musical tastes here. I like pretty much everything.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know, the Ramones began playing gigs in around mid-1974. Their first show at Performance Studios in New York City. The band performing in a style similar to the one used on their debut album. They pretty much had a sound. It was their sound. They typically performed at clubs in downtown Manhattan, specifically CBGB, like we were just talking about, and Max's Kansas City. And just popped up a couple of the classics most people have probably already heard. Blitzkrieg Bop. It's been everywhere. It's even been used in commercials and freaking cartoons and stuff, man. I Want to Be Your Boyfriend.
And it was featured in their Rock and Roll High School movie.
Yep. So good stuff.
I like the what is it? I don't want to be a pinhead no more. Oh my god, that song is great.
Pinhead.
Yeah, it's awesome. And there's a song by the Ramones, not too well known, but I've come to love it. It's called "Poison Heart," and it's a later song, but yeah, just such a great chorus.
They got a lot more rhythmic in their later stuff. Some of their later stuff is it's pretty deep. It's pretty deep. And then you can't go wrong with Pet Cemetery, right? The theme song to the Stephen King movie.
Yeah.
That's a good song. That again, that's kind of in their road to the more rhythmic stuff. And I want to say hey to Ted Darkcloud from Hella Dope. He's here.
Yeah.
So what's up, Ted?
Ted, what's up?
Yeah.
Wilhelm, can you pop that up in the chat? I'm working
no
on the thing here. Okay, there he is. Hey, Ted.
Ted, how are you doing?
So, yeah, Ramones definitely set a precedent for punk in the late 70s and beyond. And a lot of imitators, but they were the guys that everybody remembers. And this is a group that was new to me, but after listening to some tracks, I'm digging the sound, man. They're so good.
And the thing is, in Australia, I don't know if they still are. I'm sure they probably still are. They're huge, huge. And they got big in the United States when Roll On came out, and they were on MTV for a little while, and they started to get a lot of traction in the US. And then once the State of Emergency album right there came out, they kind of rolled back to, I guess I would call it their comfort zone. But yeah, I got in with the Living End. I don't want to say ground floor, but 1995 is when the Hellbound EP came out, and there's a song on there called From Here On In.
Okay.
And it is just, it's just like, I don't want to call it rockabilly, and I don't want to call it punk. I guess you would call it like that subgenre, like punkabilly, and it's just like so in your face. It's also when they had their original drummer. The drummer that you see on these album covers, he is much more technical, but I love the Living End. I've always loved the Living End. Their singer guitar player, he is like Brian Setzer level amazing.
Nice.
Really? I'm making a note of these as we go along. So
and for you kids following along at home, since we can't play the music, what we've done is down in the description of this video, I've made some links to some of Chad's favorites and some of our lists. And if you click on those, it'll take you to some videos. You can check out the music for yourself and get an experience, maybe get an education. If you're not into this particular genre, might make a fan out of you. These guys I really enjoyed.
Yeah. So Bjorn said that he got into the Ramones. I know we just kind of like passed the Ramones, but Bjorn said he got into the Ramones from the Tony Hawk games. I got into the Ramones because my buddy who I played G.I. Joes with, his dad was a mail carrier for the post office, and he was like a Ramones super fan. And he gave me a recorded cassette copy of Road to Ruin or Rocket to Russia, whatever their second album was. I want to say Road to Ruin. And that was it. I was in.
Cool. I don't remember. I just seems like they've always been there, but it was probably, back in the day we'd swap mixtapes back and forth, and guys would pull stuff together, and they'd bring a tape to school. It's like, hey man, check these guys out. And it was probably one of those. And
there was the song Pinhead in the movie Freaks that it was based on, and my friend brought the movie over and played it for me, and played the song for me, and then ever since I've been a Talking Head, or not Talking Heads, Ramones fan.
Were you looking at Pendragon's question?
Yeah.
Chris Chaney, that's it.
Yeah, it's definitely been an education looking at all the different subgenres. I mean, I'm familiar with rockabilly. I'm familiar with some of the, some of the ones that you've heard of either from college radio or here and there.
Yeah, but who doesn't know the Stray Cats, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the 80s rockabilly revival right there.
Yeah. And we'll get into that in a minute. Some of the revival stuff when it just kind of picked up again, but so many subgenres for each of these. punk wasn't just punk. There was 70s punk. 80s punk had a whole different flavor.
Yeah.
Then you had skater punk, thrash punk.
Yeah,
Some
like
of the more
Steve
hardcore stuff.
Caballero from Powell Peralta. He has that band, The Faction. They're a good punk band, and he still plays in The Faction. He's like 60 years old.
Yeah. Hey, there's no age limit on rocking, man.
No. Real quick, yeah, Pendragon. I love Talking Heads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I love them. Yeah.
Well,
They
I'm
got
gonna let you run.
CBGB too.
No
Oh,
kidding.
did you? That's awesome.
Well, I'm going to let you go ahead and run the chat and pop those up because I'm
sure.
just not keeping up with that real well. Sorry about that.
No problem. But yeah, great. I thought they'd be on the list because I thought I heard you mention them on some other stream. But yeah,
I love tons of stuff. Like I don't know. I would say that the three bands that I really named when Jim asked me, those are kind of the bands that I would say like round out my edges if I were to use that vernacular, because those bands really have a lasting impression on me, the style of music that I play and just kind of what formed my musical tastes, I guess.
Yeah, it's like when you say, it's word association. If you say rockabilly, one of the first names that pops up for me is like Roy Orbison, Ooby Dooby, just because that's rockabilly to me.
That's all rockabilly back then. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Elvis.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. That's all right, Mama.
Yeah,
you can't go wrong with that.
And looking at some of the newer stuff that's been coming out that takes that same flavor and then kind of puts a modern edge to it, it's like guys are doing some good work out there. The Living End, one thing I found interesting, little factoid, their name is a reference to the film Rock Around the Clock in 1956. According to Cheney, it's an old 50s term meaning far out, man, or the greatest.
Yeah.
And, they were totally into the whole, 50s rockabilly thing, but they wanted to keep a neutral name so that if they wanted to, branch out, do something different, they weren't pigeonholed into one sound. So
it's
that's
a cool
where the name
name.
came from.
And
they are definitely not one sound. Yeah, they are not one sound.
Oh yeah, we've got Action Figs bringing up some old school guys. Carl Perkins, man, classic. Everything Carl Perkins is good. Bopping to the Blues. I can't remember a lot of it. It's kind of one of those things where you just kind of let stuff wash over you. It's like I know songs from these guys, but I couldn't name every single one. But when you hear that sound, it's like, oh yeah, I get it. Eddie Cochran's another great one.
Who was a huge influence on Brian Setzer. The funny thing about Carl Perkins is that when Carl Perkins found out that Blue Suede Shoes was a #1 hit, have you guys heard that story?
No.
All right, so Carl Perkins, he was part of this Sun Records ensemble, and none of them owned the rights to their songs, which is always why like Elvis would record this person's song, and Johnny. It was like that, the Golden Quartet, right? And so they would all record each other's music. Carl Perkins was hospitalized with appendicitis, had his appendix removed, woke up, and somebody was like telling him that Blue Suede Shoes was a #1 hit, and he was like, "Oh yes, yes!" And they were like, "No, Elvis recorded it."
Shit.
That's how Carl Perkins found out. Yeah,
that's gotta hurt.
Yeah, what was that movie? There was a movie like about Chess Records where they kind of talked about some of the backdoor stuff that went on with some of the bands and their big promoter. It's really interesting to see how Sun Records and some of these other, they were very exploitative. Obviously, they just had a stable of talent and they just milked them for everything they were worth.
Yeah,
it's like
they exploited their artists, and then you got guys like Colonel Tom Parker who exploited Elvis, in turn. So yeah,
it's like behind every great musician, there's somebody kind of like a leech. It was a thing, but
yeah, being a musician, you're almost like a prostitute, right? Like everybody wants you, but nobody needs you. Like producers. Producers need you for stuff. Promoters need you. Venue owners need you, but like they just don't want you around.
They just want the talent to bring in the cash.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
a little weird.
What's just in general, what is the difference between trying to put stuff together in a studio and then going out and doing tours? I mean, it's a whole different lifestyle, I would imagine.
Well, I mean, generally the workflow is you write on the road, you write when you can, you write when you're inspired, you practice and work on the songs, get off the road, record an album, go back on the road. It's a grind. Yeah, I did it for years. I did it for years and years.
Yeah. And trying to find time to sleep in there, it's like, I'll sleep when I'm dead.
I actually slept really well on the road when we were a lot when we were touring for like 5-6 weeks on end. Yeah, because we always had a really good system. So we weren't like big time partiers and stuff. So we would play a show, we'd drive for a couple hours, we'd find a place to stay. Then we'd get up, we'd drive the rest of the way to the next venue. We would generally get there way too early. Go loaf around somewhere, go find some place to eat, maybe some record stores, toy stores. We did that a lot too. And then we would show up when it was load in and we would just do it all over again.
That's cool. So did you ever find some pretty cool Joe finds on the road in between?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I would, back when we were touring, Toys R Us was still a thing. KB Toys was still a thing. So we would go to those kind of toy stores, mom and pops, thrift stores, things like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, if you're going to be touring the country, you might as well take advantage and check out all the different places you can find goodies. Speaking of goodies, The Cult, one I had forgotten about. Electric was a great album. Total different flavor from some of their other stuff, but good. Their version of Born to Be Wild was all over the radio in the 80s. Everything on this album's good. There isn't a bad one, in my opinion.
Yeah, and they went from Love to this record, and I hadn't heard Love before I was introduced to The Cult with this cassette. And I love this album front to back, and I still listen to it all the time. It's just one of those things that helped form my musical taste when I was a kid. Because you got to figure I was like 12 years old, 13 years old when this came out.
Oh, yeah. So it's a great time to be experimenting with music, figuring out what you like, what you're into. This is also in the description below. There's a link if you want to listen to it on the YouTubes. I highly recommend.
I'd have to agree with Bjorn here. He's saying he's looking forward to adding more songs to his ever-expanding playlist. And
cool.
Yeah, that's the whole purpose.
Yeah, exactly. It's like we all have different tastes and flavors of music, and as a community coming together and talking about what we like, everybody wins because you get to hear maybe a band you never knew about.
Can I just mention that, back in the day, that's how we found out about music or different bands. You would meet people, they'd introduce you to them, and you liked some, you didn't like some, but you tried new things. I don't know about you, and maybe not Chad, because, you've been a musician in your adult life, but since my adult life started, when I had kids, basically, I've really not expanded my horizons very much. I've kind of stuck to the same things that I used to listen to, and it's probably like a good decade gap where I didn't add anything to my my playlist. I just kept listening to things that I liked when I was younger.
87 was a good year, ma'am.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey.
Go ahead.
When I met the Mam's mother for the first time, right? I was born in 74. The Mam was born in 87, right? She's a little younger than me, but that's perfectly cool. When I first met her mother, she was talking about, oh, well, she this and she that and blah, blah, blah. And I looked at her mother and I said, you're telling me she's been this hot since she was like 16 years old? And her mother was deeply offended that I asked that question. I was like, wait, that's a compliment. And she was like,
yeah.
She was pissed.
It's like she didn't go through the awkward, ugly duckling stage. Like, all of us.
My wife is, she's like a gorgeous, beautiful woman. And like to hear that she looked like that at 16 years old, I was like, get out.
Her mom just wasn't thinking. Yeah, she didn't want to hear that about her little girl.
Axion, yeah, 1987. I was in the 7th grade as well, so yeah, that's great. And then I
Yep.
think junior high, yep, that's when it started for me as well. Yeah, great.
Yeah. And as we've mentioned, they made a very deliberate style change. This was electric was very different from what came before.
Yeah.
You know, their gothic sound wasn't bad. It just wasn't hard rock. And this was a whole different flavor and was good. So good, it is recommended as one of the 1001 albums you must hear before you die. So
Absolutely, you must.
there you go.
Like the riffs in that album are amazing.
Yes. Love Bad Religion. This is great.
Oh, yeah. Another great one. I would say probably my first introduction to them was what was the song? You. Just
You are the
really
government.
yeah.
You are jurisprudence. Oh, yeah.
Yes. I wouldn't call it a ballad, but it's like just it's a truth bomb. You know,
Yeah.
you listen to the lyrics and you're just like, oh, dude. Not only was that totally on point then, it's on point now. You know, these guys. That is a great thing about anything and everything punk is they were just putting it out there and saying, look, whether it's religion, politics, what have you, we're going to call it what it is. And they do it in their lyrics and the way they live.
Bad Religion was the punk rock band that got my mother to be somewhat accepting of punk rock as music because Bad Religion's lyrics are intelligent.
Yeah.
And she thought that, punk rock was all, like Sex Pistols.
Right. Or Dead Kennedys.
In your face. Yeah. And I love the Dead Kennedys, right?
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
So, but you listen to a song like Police Truck, right? And you read the lyrics, and then you listen to something from Bad Religion, and they're two totally, they're two separate moons orbiting a planet.
Yeah, it's like some of these. If you just took the lyrics and put it into a sociology class, people would just nod and go, "Oh yeah, good notes." Yeah, it's like no, that's it's freaking song lyrics, man.
Yep.
But oh man, a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they also, like we were talking about when in the late '80s, early '90s, punk came back. For some people, it never left, but it kind of fell out of fashion for a minute. There was a British flavor to it. There was, a very angry American New York sound. And then this California punk thing came out of nowhere. And it was like, you had Bad Religion and then Green Day, NoFX, Offspring, Rancid. And it was, that's where you get the skater punk, the thrasher kind of stuff.
Yeah. I'll tell you, like, it's not for this forum, but between Greg from Bad Religion and Lars and Tim from Rancid, I probably have a zillion stories.
I bet.
Oh,
yeah, like you said.
Because so my band was associated with Hellcat Records, which is associated with Epitaph Records, which is Bad Religion. And so just like always being in those circles with those guys and just ridiculous stuff.
Now, what was your tie-in with Coffin Cats? Were you guys one group at one time, or did you guys tour together? Or
so before they were the Coffin Cats, Vic's previous band was called Circle Jerks and Pennywise. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Vic's previous band was called something else that's escaping me right now. I'm sure I'll think of it, in like an hour. And when the Amazing Crowns kind of dropped off the scene, that's when you saw like Tiger Army really get big. And then we were real close friends with Tiger Army, so we kind of went in that direction. And then when Tiger Army kind of dropped and we sort of went away, that's when Coffin Cats kind of came up. But we had played shows with them several times. Just as he started the Coffin Cats, we were on tour with Tiger Army. We went through their hometown. We met them. We hung out with them. And we've just known them for a long time. And then the guy who was
go ahead.
Mm-hmm. The guy who was in a side project with me took over as Coffin Cats lead guitar player for a few years. So
the vocalist on what was it called? The Bottle Called. Very different sound. Good.
I love DRI. Four of a Kind was a great album, right?
Yeah.
And that was a different path for DRI too. Anyway, sorry.
No, just kind of random thought about just, like I say, a lot of this music, you hear it, you hear certain things or certain vocals or even just somebody, the way they hit the drums, you're just like, I don't know who that is, but I'm freaking loving that sound. And then you hear another group and it's like, wait, that's the same sound. It's like, well, these guys, they would switch bands or bands would break up, bands would come together. And it was just like this, they were all like a community that would just kind of wave in and out of whatever.
You saw that a lot with like the Northern California bands. So one band that I didn't mention on here that I probably could have. I'm friends with a couple of them. I've always been in the same circles with them, is AFI. And Adam from AFI, their drummer, he was a huge influence on my drumming style. Really? As was the drummer from The Living End. Yeah, massive influences on my drumming style. But you would see that a lot also with like the straight edge hardcore bands in New York, like Judge, Youth of Today, and Gorilla Biscuits were pretty much all the same members, just with different singers. Right. Because you had Ray of Today for Youth of Today, you had Civ for Gorilla Biscuits, and then you had Mike Judge for Judge. Yeah. But everything else was, so you had like Porl and Sammy and those guys, and it was just like the same dudes, on guitar and bass and drums. And like when Sammy started playing with Youth of Today, he was like 12. He was like a 12-year-old kid, and he could wail on the drums. Yeah.
Some people they have it. It's just one of those natural talents. Other people have to work their butt off to get there. It kind of reminds me a little bit too of the ska scene. It's the same thing. You'll have like 12 different bands and all the members kind of mix and match, or they'll get together and it's like, it's all good.
Yeah.
But speaking of, bands that have gone through some different members in their day, a lot of change ups with Bad Religion, but Greg Graffin pretty much been around all the time. Jay Bentley, Brett, and some of them have left, come back. They've done reunion stuff. The sound is still good, no matter who they bring in. They bring in people that can cover the playlist really well.
Yeah.
So
me, Brett Gurwitz, and Jeff Kresge, who was the original bass player from AFI, who then went on to play upright in Tiger Army. The three of us were hanging out at NAMM, which is a National Association of American Musicians Merchandisers, that they do it in Anaheim every year. We were hanging out at NAMM, and freaking Gene Simmons is like 15 feet from us, and he's just like cussing everyone out. Like, and we're all just over here, just like, whatever. And, Mr. Super Rockstar over there is like making everybody cry. And I'm like, that dude's an ass. He's an ass.
Yeah.
And then Lars came in from Metallica, and he had guards take him over to enclosed
Lord.
He had a drum kit, right?
He had a nice,
like surrounded by the soundproof clear walls. And he played a demo for like 4 minutes, and then he left.
So he had his own little security bubble. Oh, how special.
If you've ever watched that documentary movie, That's Some Kind of Monster, like, you see what Lars is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not trying to shit talk, but like Lars, I would never care to meet Lars. Ever.
Right. Some people, they get the ego in the way. Some people are all about the music. That's another thing I like about small venues. The bands that are there, they're just people, man. You go back and have a cigarette with them out back, and then go listen to their set, and just, it's not a big deal. Buy some merch if they got T-shirts in the trunk of their car or whatever.
My band's not. We've been around. We just do it for the love of music, and the ma'am knows, because she sees it's just part of what I do. But we played massive venues. And, you play for thousands and thousands of people, but we have always, without fail, when we're before our set and when we're done with our set, we're at the merch table.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's your bread and butter. Sometimes that's your gas money, depending on where you are in your career.
We're not there to like pimp merch. We're just there we just talk to people. We just hang out.
Yeah, it's a meet and greet. It's kind of like, you know, a good equivalent would be Comic Cons, Toy Cons. You know, some people, when they go, they're there just to meet writers or inkers or colorists who are, you know, people they really admire their stuff. It's like, man, I like what you do. You know, it's nice when you got people who will go to these cons because they're there, because they know the fans are appreciating it.
Yeah.
And I would imagine very similar with the music scene. Most of the big venue stuff I've gone to, you know, the merch table they've got a crew. You don't see the actual band members there very often, but I did get a chance to.
Having a merch person is one thing, but you know, like being around and talking to people and like these bands that hang out in a green room and then walk out on stage and then go back in the green room, like get out of here, man.
Yeah,
like, that's bullshit. I'm sorry.
I had
swearing a little.
I had a great experience with John Anderson from Yes. Super, super nice guy. And by that time, he was a real rock star. I was there at the reunion tour when they, you know, were bringing the old band and the new band together, kind of doing this union thing. And a friend of mine had some backstage passes, and he brought me with him. And just when you meet somebody and they're totally genuine, and when you tell them you like their music and they light up like, hey man, you know, he's been rocking for 40 years. He's like, I still enjoy when somebody tells me they like what they hear. It's like, that's cool.
Well, see, like, so James from Ratface says Black Flag, and then Samuel Edwards says Misfits. So you got Henry Rollins on one side and Glenn Danzig on the other. You want to talk about night and day? That's night and day.
And it's all
Glenn Danzig is, oh man, like everyone's heard the stories. Everyone's seen the video of the guy from Northside Kings who knocks him out because Glenn Danzig.
Seeing the blood. Oh yeah.
He's an ass, but Rollins is like the most down-to-earth dude you will ever meet. Rollins is just so chill.
And
then you got like Mike Ness from Social Distortion, like flip a coin. That's whichever Mike Ness you're gonna meet that day. Yeah. There's bands that I used to look up to that I played shows with, and I'm like, nope, done with you.
Yeah, like they say, never meet your heroes. Sometimes that's
they do say that thing. Yeah.
Speaking of some local heroes,
there's me right there.
There you go. Wearing some 3POA merch.
3POA shirt, yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Way to represent.
You know, the funny thing is, whenever I'm on stage, I'm almost always wearing like that shirt because it's cool. You know, it's kind of Cthulhu-ish. Or I'll wear like my my Gridiron t-shirt.
Yeah.
Like I'm always wearing something toy related on stage.
You know what's funny is people will be watching. It's like, dude, what band is that? It's like 3POA. Oh man, they
you got to check them out.
You gotta, yeah.
You don't know about 3POA?
Yeah,
I want to figure it out. Yeah.
But very psychobilly, very very cool sound. I like rockabilly, but some of it's a little sleepy, for lack of a better term. Whereas with psychobilly, driving beat, not angry but intense. And you guys are definitely in that lane. This is the kind of music I can put on in the background. I'm bebopping around, doing what I got to do. That's what I like. So I'm very. Plus the flavor of your album covers. I'm so digging this look. Very. I love the classic horror stuff, and you guys play that up well. So, what's the story with that?
That album cover right there originally. One of the tattoo artists in Albuquerque, he did this beautiful oil painting, and it was a massive freaking painting.
Nice.
He did this massive oil on canvas painting, and it was all of the Universal monsters, and it was like they were all doing stuff where we had lyrics and different songs on the album, and they were just kind of doing it. And we gave it to the label, and we paid for that painting. Like the band paid for that painting. And we commissioned him. We didn't get the painting. We commissioned him to do it, and he kept the painting, that was the deal.
Oh, okay.
That's okay. It was the deal. And we presented it to the label, and the label lawyers were like, no, Universal's going to sue us for everything we have. You know what I mean? So then our actual producer, he did that himself.
No kidding.
Yeah, and we were like, okay, that's cool.
You know what
And
it
then
reminds me of?
one
There
of
was
our
this.
EP. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, I was just gonna say the velvet paintings that you would get like at the flea
Yeah.
markets and garage
Yeah.
sales and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, everybody makes fun of the Velvet Elvis, but there was a lot of cool stuff back there, and this has kind of that flavor to me of stuff I remember seeing when I was going to the big flea market they have in Knoxville every year. There's a lot of artists that would do this kind of this style, those colors. When you put it on black velvet, it's like, man, that's cool. Plus, it covers up, you know, whatever hole you have in the wall. You know, it's good for that.
Look at that picture. I used to have hair.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Nice.
I love it. Yeah.
And I'm digging the kind of Santa Fe flavor with the iconography there. Is that because of the Albuquerque roots? Yeah.
Yeah, because we're a band from New Mexico, and you know, we tour all over, and not so much these days. Like, we're still active, but you know, all three of us have professional careers. We're also all military veterans too.
Okay.
So
Nice.
yeah, Nate was in the Army, Jake was in the Air Force, I'm still in the Army. So all three of us have military roots, and we all have professional careers. So we get out, but we just do it for fun now. It's not our profession anymore. We just do it for fun. But we always had this thing about, like, okay, you know, New Mexico. I mean, we have a song called Skinwalkers. You know, we have a song called Hunt of the Unnamed, which is about, like,
on this album.
Yeah. So we've got a lot of stuff like that. We got a song about La Llorona, you know, the crying woman at the rivers, and then
oh yeah, that's a big one here in Guatemala as far as
we've got
urban
all
myth.
sorts of stuff like that. Yeah,
and it's
so
cool.
it's just kind of our flavor. A lot of it is Jake and Nate. You know, they're the songwriters. I just go like, oh, okay, yeah, cool.
Yeah, and this one is another one. I love the cover art, the style. Now this is kind of revisiting some older stuff you guys have done in the past.
Yeah. There was like B-sides and old demos, and you know, people just kind of wanted it, so we put it out. Yeah,
cool.
Oh my, they're back.
And this kind of reminds me of what I didn't even know was a thing, but horror punk, or what you could even call it, horror rockabilly. There's a whole subgenre of, and it's not just the music; it's a whole freaking lifestyle. You know, the dress, the look, they take some of the more interesting aspects of goth, and then put it in this rockabilly flavor, and it's like,
because I mean, you got to look to the Cramps. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So look
Misfits.
To the Cramps for that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The Misfits. Yeah, they were totally that horror punk, and then Cramps. You know, they kind of, there's a lot of Billy influence in the Cramps. You know, just very like, you know, very driving, almost surfish.
Yeah,
but so like horrific at the same time.
Great stuff. I really enjoy
and then, like,
the sound.
Rocket from the Crypt is a huge influence on our band.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's one I'll have to check out.
Yeah, Rocket from the Crypt. They're pretty fun.
But yeah.
And then growing up, I was into everything from like Susie and the Banshees, Fields of the Nephilim, Sig Sig Sputnik. Like, I listened to everything when I was a kid. The Cure, Sisters of Mercy. But then I would go listen to like the Ramones and Agnostic Front and like all those New York bands, you know?
Yeah. I'd have, cassettes in the car, and I'd have NXS right next to, Violent Femmes. It's like, it's all good stuff. And then, later on, I got into some of the more eclectic stuff like Squirrel Nut Zippers, Cherry Poppin' Daddies.
Sure.
And it's, they were bringing a whole different kind of jive, but you could say there was some rockabilly, even a little punk in some of their stuff, because they threw in some brass, but the lyrics,
so does Rocket
the
from
flavor, okay.
Like the thing about like the genre of music that Butthole Surfers, Action Figures, and Violent Femmes. Samuel got to see the Cramps, cool. Bjorn's in the Kiss Army.
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to admit this
on here.
I'm going to admit this right now for everyone. I freaking hate Kiss.
Well, fair enough.
And that's just a personal opinion. I have always despised Kiss. Rachel said she got to see the Cro-Mags. Yes.
Nice.
So great. Harley and the Cro-Mags, right? Hard times are coming your way. I love Cro-Mags. I still get down on the Cro-Mags all the time. But the thing
Bjorn
about
saying
like
he has to approve some of these band names. I guess. They're getting caught in the filter. Nice.
Yeah.
That's
When you delve into the punk scene, you'll see some the names were meant to be offensive. That was the point.
Yeah.
No, I actually, if you see, I have all the Kiss stuff behind me. That's for a video. I'm actually not a huge Kiss fan. I really don't know anything about them. I bought those just for an upcoming video we're doing on there.
Yeah, we're doing a BCs and Baddies talking about some of the the characters and the toys, the merchandising that Gene was all about. He was all about the merchandising.
Something about Kiss. Like,
they were a product.
They were a product, and they were even more so a product than like the Sex Pistols, right? Because the Sex Pistols had Malcolm McLaren kind of driving them and look like this and act like that and shock. And then Kiss did the exact same thing. But those dudes never fought for a damn thing. Their very first show was a freaking arena show.
Yeah.
Wow.
They don't know, like, coming up in the music industry, like eating freaking ramen and cup of noodle and starving and being poor on the road. And they don't know any of that. Nothing.
Right. They were assembled
they try to
put together
to tell people how it is. It's like, when you listen to their first album, they get by on Ace Frehley's talent because Peter Criss couldn't even keep a freaking beat. And to me, they're a disco band in get-ups.
Yeah.
And
glam.
I couldn't even name you 3 of their songs. I really
Detroit Rock City,
Love Gun.
Up, which is Love Gun.
Yeah.
I don't know. Bad. I just don't know. I
so
can't
bad.
even
people want to talk shit about like Lion and stuff, but like, come on, listen to most of Kiss's catalog, and you're just like, terrible.
But as a kid, the merchandising sucked me in. I wasn't listening to music, but the toys, the 12-inch action figures, the cartoon or the comic books. Yeah. They made themselves into freaking Marvel superheroes. It was a whole thing. So that's the Kiss I remember more, though. You'd hear certain anthems that they did, and it was like, okay, yeah, that's Kiss. It's cool. Yep. I wasn't deep into it, but I liked the personas they created.
Scooby-Doo meets Kiss.
Yes.
That tells you everything you need to know. I'm going to raise my voice. That tells you everything you need to know about Kiss right there.
We're gonna get a rant. Let's get the rant camera.
Good. Says, yeah, sure, Will.
That's like crap meeting crap right there. It's so bad.
It's like, it kind of reminds me of like with the Monkees. They were an assembled band. They were a total product for television. Doesn't mean they didn't have some talent. It was just, hey, let's string some guys together. Do they look pretty? Do they look like the Beatles? Can we pull this off? Can we get some ratings? And it was a thing. And they had a hard time living that down when they wanted to be taken seriously as musicians, because everybody's like, yeah, whatever. It was the same thing. They didn't know anything about being on the road and all that stuff. They were put together in a studio. And I'm sure that's true of a lot of bands.
Assembled bands and super groups have always been a thing, right? So you've got like, I forget the name of it. Not Black Audio, but there was another group that was like half of Gwen Stefani's band. What the hell was that band's name?
No Doubt?
Yeah.
Or before that.
No Doubt, and then half of AFI made a super group. And then you got you got the guys from Guns N' Roses and Stone Temple Pilots.
That's right. They did Velvet Revolver.
Yeah, and they were good. They were good. And I don't know if you guys have heard Duff McKagan's band.
I have.
Duff McKagan's solo band.
I have a friend who's into them. Yeah.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah.
What's trippy to me is some of these old rockers that will come together with celebrities that want to get on stage. Bruce Willis did it for a while. Johnny Depp's been with some really good musicians. Yeah. He appears to actually be a pretty good musician.
He is. And Bruce Willis was a really good blues harmonica player.
Yeah. Bruno, The Return of Bruno. I like that album. A lot of people gave it, crap, but it's like,
his Bruno stuff is good. It really is good. And Johnny Depp is a good guitar player. He is. I'll give him that.
Yeah. And it's cool that, they get to know people, they rub elbows, and it's like, you want to put a band together? Sure, why not?
Johnny Depp also owned the Viper Room, right?
Yeah. So it's not like you have a venue in your backyard. It's like, whatever. But
I
you know,
remember
and
one time I was at the Rainbow Room and he walked in with Motorhead's drummer, and I was like, right. I was like, okay.
That's a strange pairing, but yeah, why
Right.
not?
It was so weird. I was like, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, do you remember that venue in Rhode Island that Great White burned down?
I
I
heard
remember
about it.
hearing about that.
It
Yeah.
was like 2005, 2006. We
Mhm.
we were on the road from Albuquerque to Rhode Island, and we did that drive straight, like switching drivers to start a freaking tour in Rhode Island. We started a tour in Providence, Rhode Island, and it was a whole U.S. tour, but we had to start it in Rhode Island.
Now, had you already been in the service by this point? Was your time
I was
doing
already
deployments?
Out. I was
okay.
out. Yeah, so I did 9 years, and then I was out for 10, and then I came back in 2010. And so for that 10-year period, all I did was play music with these guys.
Nice. But did you find
and
that
a couple other
your
groups? Like I was in one of those super groups, right?
Right. I'm curious though, living out of a rucksack in the dirt and the dust and the mud, did that help you to live on the road?
It helped all
skill
of us.
wise.
Yeah, because like, you know, the whole mindset of embrace the suck, you know,
Yes.
so like we were all very accustomed to that. And then, you know, part of the stages of team building, and being in a band is a team, right? It's a team effort. So, you know, there's that whole formation, enrichment, sustainment kind of a thing. And like enduring hardship together is something that builds lasting bonds.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a bonding experience.
Myself and Jake and Nate. So Doopy was only in the band while Nate was gone. So Nate went to Pennsylvania, and then he started a career in law enforcement. And then he actually works for the federal government, and they sent him to like, I want to say like the Virgin Islands. I don't know if the ma'am's still here. She knows, like they sent him to like the Virgin Islands or something. And then when he was finally able to come back to the States, he came back to Albuquerque.
Okay.
So
yeah, because I
noticed we were fortunate enough to have Doopy in the band for the time that Nate was gone. But
okay. It's I wasn't sure about the lineup because I knew Nate was not there in some of the credits, and I was like, well, is Nate there? Is he here? He's what it's like, yeah, he's part of the band. So cool.
And it was the same with me for a period of time. They had a guy named Pat who's a really accomplished drummer, and he played drums with Jake and Nate for a period while I was deployed and all that stuff. There was a little bleed over with.
So is there a
I'm wearing a Gridiron shirt right there.
I was gonna say
Gridiron Studios.
Yeah, we are a not safe for work show. So, you know, if you want to go into something, we can. If you don't, it's cool too.
Right on.
Is there a story behind the Mad Dog moniker?
Yes. So first of all, I was a little like, man, he fucking put it there. But
yeah.
So I was not a drummer.
If Ryan can live down the white potato, you can certainly hang on.
Oh
to
yeah,
Mad
yeah.
Dog.
So it's this, right?
The intensity.
Yeah. So when I started playing music with these guys, I was learning to play the drums as we were learning songs for the band.
Wow.
Like when we started playing in 2000, I had never played drums, and so I was like always like just trying to pay attention and learn and like advance my skills as a drummer and keep a freaking beat. And all of your limbs are doing shit at the same time.
Yeah.
So people see this intensity in your face, and you're like, dude, that guy's intense.
The ma'am will tell you, I can't even jump rope. I can't jump rope. I never learned how to jump rope, but I can drum because I learned how to drum, and how
Muscle
I learned
memory
was focusing, right? And it was just like,
you gotta love musicians that just lose control of their face when they're jamming out. They're the best ones.
Oh yeah.
Where they're just like,
when we started actually playing out, I was like, but I always had this very intense look on my face. And they were like, man, why are you always mad dogging everybody? And I'm like, I'm not. You know, and as they're saying it, I'm looking at them like this, and I'm like, I'm not fucking mad dogging people. And then they're like, that's it, dude. That's your freaking name. That's your name right there. And like, it's stuck. It's
pointing at people in the crowd.
I hated it.
They're like, yeah, you.
I hated it, and I hated it, and I hated it. And then when we did our very first, we did a split record with a band from Seattle, and then Jake put that on there. And then people started calling me that at shows, and I was like, God damn it.
Mad Dog, what's up?
And that's it. It just stuck. So now when I just sign things, I just put MDC real big.
Nice.
I was going to say, could have been worse. They could have hung Fluffy on you or something. You know, Mad Dog's easier to live down. But it's cool to know the backstory.
Mad Dog Buford Tannen. Yeah, they just started calling me that, and it just stuck. It's like my call sign in the Army is Xerxes, right? Because I'm really tall, right? I'm a really big dude, and I'm like olive skinned and I'm bald. So they call me Xerxes in the Army. And I still wear it on my body armor. But yeah, they gave me that fucking name, and it just stuck.
Chad's or the group seems to like it here. You're the greatest, intense, Mad Dog face and all. Love.
Nice.
Nothing but love.
So I was one of the other, so that like super group band that I was in, right? And it was me, one of the guys from AFI, a guy from an old school like East Bay punk rock band called The Force, and then this brilliant guitar player named Eric Razzo. And the four of us got together and we formed this super group. And our whole thing was like, see who has the most neck veins in photo. And so like when we would play shows, we would just like, scream and try to get all the neck veins that we could get.
Nice.
Yeah. Anyway,
the things you do to entertain yourselves and find. Well, 12-Step Rebels. Can't recommend them highly enough. They are everywhere.
I have to check them out.
As you see by the icons there, you can check out their music in a lot of different flavors. They are also available on YouTube. Link in the description below. Check them out. You want to buy some merch? That link's down there too. They got the buttons. They got the albums. They got the stuff.
Merchandise.
We like the stuff.
And there's little nods. So all of us are kind of geeks, especially me and Jake, right? Jake and I are like the biggest freaking geeks. So one of our EP covers, it's an 8-bit image, and it's the Grim Reaper from Castlevania.
I saw that. I'm like,
we have a new shirt that Jake just made. It's the original Mark Taylor design for Skeletor.
Sweet.
Oh,
yeah,
that's awesome.
And so like we always have weird little nods like that. A lot of it is kind of Universal Monsters flavor, sure, because that's our shtick, that's our deal.
You
but
know,
if it's not Universal Monsters,
brings up a really good point. He likes
stuff.
I like
stuff too. Yeah. Do you like
stuff? Is good.
But we've always got that little like nerd culture kind of flavor in there. So we always wink. We always put it in there.
I always love some of the little Easter eggs when you look at liner notes on the old albums and stuff, and they throw little things in there, and sometimes things
we do that too. Yeah.
You know.
No, absolutely not.
No.
I did hear a rumor of a karaoke night going on at Joe Fest. So that could be a lot of fun. I will most likely be there. Yes.
I'm not a singer, but I can harmonize. That's one thing I can do.
I can do a mean Bill Murray. Star Wars, those crazy no.
Nothing but Star Wars.
I was telling Jim before the show that, karaoke, I'm probably the only person anyone knows where they pulled the plug on me.
That's half the fun of karaoke.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. When you can actually clear the room, you know you've done something right.
The lady was just looking at me going,
No.
I looked over. I'm like, what's going on? The mic's not working.
She literally unplugged you.
She just mad dogged me. Shut me off.
Oh. Well, this has been very fun and fortuitous. When we were talking about banging this together, we never really thought about grabbing anybody who actually was a musician. It was just a happy coincidence, and we're very pleased that you took the time to hang and chill and share some stuff from your playlist. Give us some ideas for some new bands that maybe we haven't heard, and reminiscent about some old favorites. Again, in the description, guys, dig in there, look at some links, especially for the 12-Step Rebels. Can you tell us a little bit about the background on the name? Is it from an AA thing, or is it just the beat? Or
no, it's kind of one of those things where like 12-step program. So first of all, here's my disclaimer. There is no very like poignant, out of body reason why we came up with this name, right? So we were trying to come up with names for the band, and one of the stupid ass names that was put on this list was Chrome Tractor. That's the only other band name I remember, and I still remember it. 23 years later, I was like, what the shit is a Chrome Tractor? I was like, and me, so I'm thinking like Megatron, Destro, farm equipment. Like I have no idea where that came from. And we went through name after name after name after name, and then it was like 12-Step Rebels. And I was like, dude, that's so like, it's just like, it's a powerful name. And it's just like, the name itself is a hook. And then we started thinking about it and like, well, why'd you come up with the name? It's like, well, 12-step programs are a very American thing, and they have a 12-step to recovery program for everything. True. And it's like, we started playing psychobilly music when psychobilly music was not popular. And Albuquerque's a very music heavy city. It has a long history with music. So like, you listen to Johnny Cash, you listen to Johnny Burnett and the Rock and Roll Trio. A lot of the old 50s artists always sing about Albuquerque. And Albuquerque has a long, long history with music and tuberculosis. But that being said, it does. And apparently blue meth, right? Because Breaking Bad.
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
I'm just saying that shit's a documentary on this town. We call it Albuquerque for a reason. So we started playing psychobilly music in a time where like, there were like your punk bands and there were your rockabilly bands. And we were all of the above and none of the above at the same time. And when people started learning that the three of us were coming up with a band, it's like, well, you guys come to the rockabilly shows, and Jake's really big into like swing dancing. He's a great dancer. And Nate is like a savant when it comes to music. He can play the upright bass, the guitar, the violin, the fiddle. Like he bows his bass in some songs. Like he is a brilliant freaking musician. And
that's cool.
The three of us were just like so eclectic and weird and different. And we like so much stuff. They were like, but you guys are never going to go anywhere. Like you're not punk. You're not rockabilly. Like the punks, and the rockabillies. We had one of the rockabilly guys, and he was a great musician. This band called Bovine, a 3-piece, really, really good stuff. And he came up to us one day and he's like, you guys will never go anywhere. You'll break up in 6 months. Well, a year later, we're playing Edge Fest to 10,000 people. Right. So, and I broke their lighting rig with a drumstick that I threw up. But like our whole thing was like, we're just going to do what we want to do. Like, the whole 12-step and then Rebels, like we were just kind of like, it fit because we didn't fit into anyone's box. There was no like system to our band. And we started getting a name for ourselves because like we were really in your face, super energetic. None of our shows are the same. None of our set lists are the same. We all come together and, everyone's singing. There's always something going on. And like, you don't know, like Jake's just going to jump off the stage and he's going to run out in the crowd while he's playing. Nate will like throw his bass up in the air and it'll do like 5 spins. And like, we just played a show the other night and he leaned out over the crowd and he cracked some chick right across the face with like the scroll of his bass. Like, you don't know what's coming. And I spit everywhere.
You're into it.
We started like playing shows and people would start cutting our sets off. And then we were like, oh, okay, well, you're going to cut our set short. Like we're like smashing monitors and shit. So like people learned like, don't cut their sets off. Don't screw them on like their cut of the door. And like, they'll bring a crowd in. And we just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And
nice.
That's cool.
Nice.
And a lot of the labels and genre names, the bands don't do that. It's people trying to promote it that hang that on them. So, whether it's rockabilly, psychobilly, horror rock, whatever you want to call it, you can play whatever you want. And it kind of reminds me of like the term new wave back in the day, 80s. Oh,
Sure.
new wave. It's like nobody was doing, there was no new wave. You were either punk or you were ska or you were doing something that they didn't know how to label and put out and promote in a record shop. So they call it new wave.
It was a definition put to that style because it's the new wave of music. Yeah.
Right.
So they just started calling it new wave. Like we were in an American psychobilly documentary, and like they were sitting there talking to us like at some booth at a venue that we were like going to play. And it was like, oh, blah, 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 and psychobilly this, and where's the term psychobilly come from? And we were all like, okay, so we don't even call ourselves psychobilly. Like,
right.
we put it in some stuff, but we would never say like we're a pure psychobilly band. Because a lot of the European psychobilly bands, like they sing songs about like putting cats in bags and hitting them with hammers and like,
yeah,
like,
you get into some of the
dismembering women, and we don't do that at all. It's all about like Americana and folklore and stuff like that. Like our shit's really about folklore.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, this has been awesome.
Come from the no, it didn't. None of the above.
So I've got a starred chat from the beginning of the stream where Pendragon made a prediction on Chad's fave beats, Talking Heads and Daft Punk. We did touch on Talking Heads, but Daft Punk did not come up.
I do like Daft Punk
them
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
I love Talking Heads. One of the songs that I desperately want to cover, not necessarily on an album, but I love the dark undertones of the song is Psycho Killer by Talking Heads.
of course, yeah.
And
And I've been
Talking Heads is
saying that
another
shit
group.
for 20 years.
I was going to say, didn't they cut their teeth at CBGB too back in the day?
Absolutely. Yep. Them, Blondie, all of them, they all
Yeah.
kind of came up together. Yep. Sonic Youth. Yeah, all of them right
Rachel
around the same
here
time.
asking about cutting some live beats for the Word Burglar. Do you have any love for the Word Burglar?
Yeah, Word Burglar's cool.
Yeah, cool.
Well, guys, we're
It's
over
not like
the hour
anybody's
mark.
beating down my down to lay down drum tracks. So, you know.
I know we could go all night. I want to get some dinner. I know you guys have
Yep.
other things to do. Good to see you, Zazel. Good to see everybody in the chat.
Yeah.
Again.
Hazel's hoping that Chad sings him to sleep at Joe Fest.
Oh,
I can. I absolutely can.
Little rock and lullaby. Nice.
I will do that. Yeah.
But yeah.
And
Thank you so much, Chad. Thank you, Jim. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Chad.
Yeah,
This was fun. This is really cool that you
Yeah.
guys are doing this. It's cool.
I learned so much.
we're having fun with it. Yeah,
But
it's an education.
when I'm over here
and-
customizing, I generally listen to like synthwave or like 8-bit music.
nice.
That's generally what's on my jams.
I was gonna say instrumental stuff or stuff with a heavy backbeat. I'm digging that when I'm trying to do stuff. I just want something, even industrial, just something going that gets the blood pumping. But
When
I don't want to go down another rabbit hole.
When I told the ma'am I was going to be on this show, she was like, 8-bit. That's all you listen to. And I was like, yeah, well, that's all.
Castlevania or nothing, man. Anyway, this has been
right.
fun, and it's cool that guys who enjoy toys don't have to just talk toys all the time. We can talk about other stuff because we got other stuff. We're like onions. We got layers.
Look at that freaking! Not only did Black Knight just show up, what's up, dude? But a punk with toys.
Nice.
Freaking Lawrence says, "I finally talk punk, and I'm just tuning in, dude. You're gonna have to rewatch because he knows
the
I love
replay.
punk, but he
Yeah.
and I only really kind of talk about it offline. But yeah, man,
Well, this is a venue. You're welcome back. We'll do it again
Yeah.
sometime. We'll put together
I'd
another
love to talk
playlist.
again.
that'd be rad.
So, yeah, we've had so many people who have said they really enjoy talking music, even though we can't play the music. Still like talking about it, how it's made.
Play my
some of the-
music.
well, we
yeah.
might.
No.
Hey.
I don't
I don't
wanna
want to
hear
get you in
my
trouble.
music. Yeah, it's weird. I don't like listening to my own music.
I was going to say, yeah, when you hear yourself in a recording, it never sounds like you. I don't know how it is as a musician, but
I love
Anyway.
playing it, but like, yeah, when I hear it, it's weird. It's weird.
I was gonna say
We-
one time
we
I was
walked-
listening to the radio and like there was like this where a musical guest comes in and takes over, and all he did was play all of his own songs, and I was like, this fucking You're supposed
One of
to,
the
like,
last times
I
we were in
forget which musician
Hollywood,
it was, but it was like that. I'm like,
yeah. So we played House of Blues in Hollywood, like right on the strip, and we were like, oh, cool, we're gonna go to Amoeba, and we went to Amoeba, and we were playing House of Blues that night. And Amoeba,
Nice.
like we had walked inside, maybe been in there like 5 minutes, and then one of our songs came on. I was like, I don't want to be in here anymore. It was weird. It was weird. But
kind of surreal.
on K Rock in LA, we were no shit like driving somewhere, and Steve Jones from the Sex Pistols, he has a show on K Rock, and he was like, blah blah blah, and he introed the song with something, and he was like, I love this band, boom, and it was us, and I was like,
nice,
Steve Jones
That's
from the Sex Pistols,
awesome,
yeah. I was
awesome.
like, that's it, yeah. And then Morrissey was at one of our shows backstage, and I didn't know he was there, and we got off stage. He was there for one of the other bands we were playing with. Got off, and he was like, that was great. And I was like, yes, freaking Morrissey. So yeah,
that's beautiful.
Weird.
That was great.
Well, thank you, sir. This has been awesome. We're uh-oh. Did I freeze up? Somebody froze up.
I think did we run out of minutes?
On that note, we'll have Chad back again. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah,
We're going to
so
roll.
Awesome. Thank you.
Have a good night.